Hello, it's Sharon here, and I wanted to talk today about a theme that seems to be coming up quite a lot at the moment. It's September 2020, and I really got a new understanding of this recently, so I wanted to share this with you. And that is on the subject of problems. Now, if you look back over my blogs and videos that I've done since the beginning of the year, you will see that there is a running theme about how to deal with adversity, how to reframe the idea of problems. But it's really becoming stronger and stronger, this theme. So what I want to talk to you about today is how we need to change our language. And if you looked at the last video about home, belonging and connection, you'll notice that there is a theme coming up about how language really sometimes reinforces the one thing we really don't want. And it's kind of implicit in the language. So if we want to change our situation, how we feel about something, it is really important to change the language, because changing the language changes the framework. And so the word problem has really been coming up recently as a theme. And the reason is that we're so used to calling everything we don't like a problem, right? And we're uncomfortable. Oh, I've got a problem with this. Oh, I feel pain. Oh, that's a problem. But the thing with calling it a problem is that it reinforces it as something that needs to be solved. And, if we want to solve it, we want to go through it as quickly as possible. If we call it a problem, we think that we've judged it, right? The word problem infers that there's a judgment in there, that we don't like it, or it's not right, or there's something wrong, it needs fixing. And so the word problem has judgment implicit in it, right? A problem wants to be solved, right? So the word problem is really problematic when you want to heal something, or when you want to change something in your life. And so one of my suggestions is going to be today is that we stop using the word problem, because all it does is reinforce it as a problem rather than resolve it. So let's take this right from the very beginning. So we have an experience, or we are experiencing something that we're not that keen on, right? We have a preference, right, in what we want to experience in life. And so we personally sort of look at an experience and we say we don't really like it. So we've judged it. We say we don't really like it. We don't really want it. We want something different. And so within that, we start to say, well, this is a problem then, because it's not something I want to experience. And that's the very first point where we need to check ourselves, because as soon as we turn it into a problem, that leads to even bigger problems. and I'll explain why. So if we took out the word problem and we said, this is something I'm experiencing currently, just for now, and don't judge it, it's just experience. Like at the moment, I might be experiencing ill health. I might be experiencing pain. I might be experiencing less money than I would prefer. That's just temporary. That's right in the moment of now that we're having an experience that, maybe you want to improve on, okay? And that's fine that you want to improve on it, but we are not going to judge it and call it a problem. We're not going to give it a name. We're not going to give it a label. This is just an experience. So just notice that we're making it quite neutral. We're not trying to judge it. It's just an experience. So at this moment in time, you may be experiencing pain, and around the world, other people may be experiencing health. And you might think, I want that health, and that's fine. But don't judge yourself for currently experiencing pain, because at some point, everyone experiences pain. And when they're experiencing pain, maybe you're experiencing health, okay? So we're taking this judgment out of our experiences. This is really, really important. So we just look at all experience as just experience. That's it. It's just experience. We're just experiencing something right now. Because otherwise what happens is when we start to say this experience is a problem, we've created the judgment. This is a problem. I need to do something about it. What often happens is we don't just stop there, right? We think, right, let's find a solution to this problem, and you might take some action, and it's great. If you solve that problem, brilliant, right? You feel great. I've solved my problem. Well, guess what? There's a lot of things in this world that we can't just solve, right? So quickly, right? So what happens is, and this is where the real difficulty starts to come in, is if we can't resolve the problem quickly or easily, our minds say, oh, it's not just this is a problem. I must be a problem because I can't solve this problem. See how it starts to compound, right? If you can't resolve what you've called a problem, which is just experience, right? So you've created a problem from just naming it as such, and then if you can't actually change that situation quickly or easily, you start to look at yourself and you go, well, why can't I solve this problem? What is wrong with me when other people seem to be able to solve this problem? And then you say, oh, okay, well, other people have solved this problem, but I can't. There must be something wrong with me. And then you make yourself the problem. And when you make yourself the problem, this is where it gets super tricky. Because when you're trying to solve yourself, you then say, I'm lacking something. I'm missing something in me. I must go outside and look for this thing that's missing, that I'm lacking. And then you start to judge yourself quite a lot. I'm missing something. I'm lacking something. There must be something wrong with me. Look at everyone else, how they've resolved this problem. And we start comparing ourselves to others. And so this then starts to become even more problematic, even more troublesome. See, I'm using the word problem. It's so ingrained in language. It becomes even more troublesome because when you start to see yourself as the problem and you start to judge yourself as a problem and you start to think, well, maybe I need to fix this. Maybe I need to fix myself. What then happens is that you start identifying over a period of time, you can start identifying that there's something wrong with you. And you start identifying with a label. Oh, I've got this problem. It's labeled such, right? We can use the example of health. I'm in pain. I've got this illness. I am this illness. And as soon as you start identifying with a concept, as soon as you start saying there's something wrong with me, it becomes much more difficult to then shift it. And the reason for that is you start to identify with it. And anything that becomes part of your identity is much harder to shift than it's something than if it was an experience that you're just currently having, or even if it was just a problem that you have. Is much harder if you turn it onto yourself and then you become identified with it. And then it is actually quite hard to shift because you're so identified with it, you don't see that it's something that can be taken away. Because if we change that issue, you're so identified with it now, it's like we're taking a part of you away. And the ego doesn't like a part of itself being taken away. It feels diminished, so it fights to keep it. So it's much, much harder. And so this is why I'm suggesting that we start right at the beginning and we start to say, I'm not going to judge my experiences. These are all just experiences. Because once the ego mind, and it's super clever and it's very much a self-preservation tool that we have, it's very much to do with self-preservation. If you start to attack it, it will fight back, right? So when we identify with something, and say I identified and said, I've got this illness, and then I say, okay, well, I had ME, so we'll use that example. I don't just have ME, I am an ME sufferer, or I'm an ME victim, or whatever word you want to use, right? I am someone who is ill. If I was to say to you, if someone was then to say to me then, oh, but no, you can heal that, that's perfectly okay. You'd be like, no, it's a part of me. This is who I am. This is my daily experience. No, you can't have that. This is who I've identified with. And so it's really important to keep what we term as problems, even if we term it as a problem, don't bring it into yourself. Don't identify with it, because once you identify with it, the ego will fight to keep it. Okay, or because it becomes a part of the ego, and the ego doesn't want to give up any part of itself. So this is really important for all areas. Now I'm using health as the example, but this is true for money situations, it's true for relationship situations, it's true for everything, right? When we cause the idea of a problem and then we start to include that as who we think of ourselves as over time, it becomes really troublesome. So, and the mind is a very, very, very good at distraction. It's very good at saying what you can't have. It's very good at limiting you. And the reason it limits you is because it's trying to protect you. But it doesn't understand that you really want something better for yourself. And so you don't want to get into a fight with the ego, and all of that can be completely avoided if we just look at experience as experience without the judgment. So an example would be, let's say poverty. Let's say we haven't got a lot of money at the moment, okay? So rather than say, I haven't got any money, I haven't got any money, I haven't got any money, everyone else has got money, and why don't I have any money? I don't have any money, why has everyone else got money? I really need money, I really need money. So we really focus on something that we don't, what we say we don't have. And we think we can't get it, right? So we start comparing ourselves to others already. It comes in really quickly. So don't think this is I've broken it down, but it doesn't come like in nice ordered steps. It's very fast to become part of our identity. So we go, why has everyone else got money? So we start judging it. Why has everyone else got money and I've not got any money? Now, if we just stop with all of that and we actually say, at the moment, in this moment in time, I'm not experiencing what it's like to have a lot of money. And it's temporary. That's all it is. It's temporary. At this moment right now, I'm not experiencing a lot of money. And this is a trap of the mind, because the mind is very good at concepts. That's its thing, right? Concepts and ideas. And often, because of the way we frame our language and the way the mind looks at time, it says, oh, you don't have any money right now, and guess what? You're probably never likely to have a lot of money, right? Why? And then it already starts to say, why? Because you haven't got what it takes to have money, right? And so it moves very, very quickly into concepts of, you don't have money now, okay, but then they'll start to say, but you'll never have money. And why? Because there's something wrong with you, right? But actually, time is a concept, right? So the mind often uses time as a way of saying what you can't have and limiting you. So instead of saying, I don't have any money currently, but I'm sure I'll have some money in the future, it starts to say, no, money is really far away from you, right? It's really far away. You can't get money now. You can't get money tomorrow. You might have some money in the future, but in the meantime, you need to suffer. And why are you suffering? Oh, there must be something missing in you. There must be something lacking in you. Oh, look at what everyone else is doing. And so it's very, the mind is very comparative. It believes the separation, which is an untruth. So it believes that money is quite far away. It believes in that time distance. And it says, no, you can't have that yet. And so it uses all these things. It says, so in the meantime, let's distract you with something else, because that's uncomfortable, right? The mind is so good at distraction. It's so good at tying you up in concepts of things like time. It's really good at sort of turning a situation that has got no need for judgment in it and turning it back on itself, because the mind can only really see itself. It's not its real fault, because The egoic mind is egoic. It kind of just sees itself. And so it's not the best place to go for solutions. The mind is not always the best place to go. The spirit is better place to go because it's loving, it's kind, it can see everything. And then you can use the mind to create what you want, right, in the world. So the mind is not doing it out of spite, it's doing it because that's all it knows, okay? So we've all got a mind, we've all got an ego mind. We're not going to get rid of the ego mind, but what we can do is keep it in its correct place so it doesn't cause havoc in our lives, right? So you currently don't experience money at the moment, and that's just okay. Without the judgment, we don't turn it into a big problem that we have, and then we don't give it loads of energy, and then we don't put it that negative energy into ourselves and blame ourselves. Or we can even take that energy and blame someone else, right? We can say, hey, I haven't got a lot of money at the moment, and that's a big problem. And then instead of taking it in and identifying it and blaming yourself, what happens sometimes is that we say, well, it's not my fault, it's the fault of the government or my neighbour or the business that I work for or my boss or the colleague or the whatever, right? Or my parents. That's a common one. No, it's my parents' fault, right? So if we don't take it in for ourselves and blame ourselves, what we do is we go out and we blame others for it. And that also is a distraction, because guess what? You can't change people and you can't necessarily change the government. And therefore, what happens is you start to feel powerless in your life just to make a simple change, right? And you can feel powerless in your life even when you blame yourself. Why? Because it's a negative vibration of shame, guilt, anger. These things you can't really create from. They don't have the vibrational capacity to create good stuff from. You actually have to be at that higher vibration in order to create. So you're disempowering yourself every time you create a problem for yourself. Whether you blame others or you blame yourself is irrelevant. But the thing is as soon as you blame someone, which is judgment, you take your power that you have within yourself to create something different and you hand it over to something else. So if we just start to think of our lives with a lot less judgment, we can actually have a much more peaceful existence, right? So just see how that feels, right? To say, I've got a problem with this. It feels quite heavy, even like, I've got a problem with this. Oh, I've got a problem with this, right? And say, oh, I'm having an experience of this at the moment. I'm just having an experience of this at the moment. That's all it is, it's an experience. And maybe that experience is going to teach you something. Maybe not having a lot of money will teach you how to be non-attached to material objects. Well, that's a great lesson, right? Maybe having less money will teach you, give you a sense of connection. Maybe you have to learn something about vulnerability. Maybe you could learn something about how to find peace without a lot of funds, right? Maybe it's about detachment from the physical. Maybe it's from the detachment from money. Maybe it's to teach you how to manifest. Maybe that's the lesson. When you don't have something and you want something, it might be helping you to learn how to manifest something. There could be any number of lessons implicit in any experience, right? And this is the thing, and this is quite an important point that really only came in recently, and that is, we assume incorrectly that other people's lives are easy, right? And often it's an assumption, because everyone kind of gives this mask or perception, especially in the social media area that we're in. There's a veneer of perfection around people, and it's a mask. It's not true, right? So someone who has a lot of money, right, brilliant, they've got a lot of money, right? So they've got good beliefs around money and they're fine with money, or they've got inherited money, or they've won money, or they've made money, or whatever it is, right? And it looks like that's a perfect dream. But actually, if you look closer, there might be areas of their life that aren't so great with life. They might have difficulties in other areas of their lives. And we all have this mask that we show to the world that says, hey, I'm doing okay, right? But actually, we all have problems. We all have problems. We all have experiences to learn from. And see, this is the thing, like even I said it then, right? We all have experiences for us to learn from. They're not problems, they are experiences for us to learn from. And so if everything was super comfortable for everybody all of the time, and we lived the life of Riley, and we all lived the life of Riley, society would never develop, right? It's the discomfort that says, this is really uncomfortable. I think I'd like to create something to make my life a bit easier. And so we create and we improve, and we create and we improve, right? And so that discomfort is an evolutionary process for us. That discomfort is what inspires us to think, hey, is there a better way than this? Could life be easier? Could life be better? Could life be more equal? Could life be fairer? Without the unfairness, we wouldn't think about the fairness, right? So it's an impetus. It's a place to inspire us to create change and transformation of ourselves, right? It's an evolutionary process. So rather than say, hey, I don't want that evolution, and I know if you're having a hard time, you may well want to say that, and I certainly, I don't want the evolution, I just want the good stuff, right? Why do I have to evolve to get it? We've all been there, right? But the point is, this discomfort is part of life, and everyone has discomfort. To imagine that people don't have discomfort is a lie, right? Everyone has a form of discomfort. Everyone has a form of pain. You know, it's what do we do with that pain? What do we do with that discomfort? How do we view it, and how do we move through it? So, you know, if we stop seeing life as problems and we start to see it as an opportunity to learn and grow, then what happens is that when something we dislike or something that makes us feel uncomfortable comes up, rather than trying to push it away, resist it, avoid it, you know, or we take it on as like we're the problem and we blame ourselves and we judge ourselves, if we just look at that in a very different way and say, hey, look at this discomfort that's coming up. I wonder what this is going to teach me. I wonder how I'm going to grow from this. Then we stop making these big things, what is actually just experienced, into like big obstacles in our path. They're not big obstacles, they're just an experience that you're having right now. That's all it is, right? And that experience will have some learning in it. So it's a great gift, actually, to have these experiences. Now, we're not supposed to get bogged down in it. We're not supposed to get stuck in it. The idea of these experiences is to help us transform, help us change, help us grow. And we're not meant to get bogged down in it, but we get bogged down in it. Why? Because we start judging it and calling it a problem, and then blaming others, and then blaming ourselves, and blaming all these things. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope it's kind of clear what I'm trying to get across. And that is, you know, I say it a lot. I say it a hell of a lot. But judgment really doesn't help anything. It really doesn't help anything. It creates a sense of separation. It makes us believe there is something missing in our lives or missing in ourselves. And that's a lie. There's nothing missing in ourselves. There's nothing that's broken. It doesn't need fixing. However, we take the experiences that we have been given and we use that to grow ourselves, to evolve ourselves, to make life easier for ourselves. And we can make life easier for ourselves, but without the judgment. So I hope this is really helpful. I'm not going to say it's easy. Because you heard me, how many times did I say the word problem by mistake in this video? I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a retraining. We're retraining the mind to not look and name problems. We're just going to call it all experience. This is just the experience of life, right? It's just the experience of life. You have this experience in this moment, and then you have an opportunity in the next moment to have a different experience. And how you experience something is how the mind interprets something. So we're changing the way the mind interprets things by changing the language, changing the neural pathway. The old pathway would say problem is a problem, it's a problem. Why have I got this problem? Why am I a problem? And we're saying, no, we're not going down that path anymore. We're changing the pathway. We're just going to see this as experience, right? We're just going to see this as experience. And it takes a while to change that path, right? Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes you can do it super fast, right? But, you know, this is just that we're changing the pathway. Okay? See, there you go. I even said it might take some time. Well, it might take some time, but it doesn't have to take some time. And this is the mind saying, everything takes a long time. Put it out into the distance. Put it out into the distance. But the more we practice it, the more we commit to that change, the easier and the quicker it comes. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. And I hope you'll join me in this practice of non-judgment. And from now on, none of us are going to have any problems, right? No problems here. Problems are for other people, not for us.